Good day, gamers, and welcome to advanced usage of the simple trigger. So this is we're going to take advantage of the fact that we can add physics to objects, but only enable those physics once the player has done something. So for me, what I did is I have an object here. I just have a pyramid. And then what I did is I added a rigid body 2D component, and to add a component, we just go to add component and we just say rigid body 2D, okay? The settings though is I set it to kinematic, and I did set it as simulated, okay? So you can add that and then the body type is kinematic. I then added a box collider that's going to act as a trigger. So the first box collider I have, and you can sort of see here, it's the one that's slightly larger. This is, and you can tell which ones it's affecting by looking at how the numbers move. So anyways, I have a box collider that's a trigger, and then I added my simple trigger script that's going to go ahead and interact with the rigid body 2D component, okay, of the pyramid. So what I did is I then I'll just go here to add a trigger thing. I went and I added my pyramid as the object I'm working with. I went to the function. I selected the rigid body 2D, and this is going to be sort of interesting for you folks. This will be sort of something how do you want this thing to move? Do you want it to be fast? Do you want it to be slow? Do you want it to rotate? That kind of stuff. What I did then is I added some components. I basically, let's delete this one now. I went ahead, I turned on, well, let's start at the top. I added a mass. I made sure it was being simulated. I added inertia, angular velocity, and then I also set the rigid body 2D to wake up, because another thing I set was, as far as, I believe it's the default thing, but I started the sleeping mode for the rigid body 2D as start asleep. Okay, so it's not gonna, the game's not gonna start with the physics already working. I then added a second box collider. Okay, this second box collider is gonna be what makes it so that you can't pass through the pyramid. I initially set it to be off. In my simple trigger, I enable that by just going to the second box collider and set it to is enabled. So this is just a very simple usage of this script. But now when I go to it, you can sort of see that's going to now start rotating this thing. And then if you again, not perfect, a pyramid is not the perfect shape for this as far as what you want to sort of work with, because the physics, that's kind of weird. But that's one thing you could do. Some other options you could think about would be if you wanted to add it so that platforms would start to move once you entered a trigger, you could do that. If you wanted to add death spikes, so you have a bunch of objects with death zones around them, you could do it that way. The simple trigger is incredibly powerful. Okay, it's something that is just, it's a nice part of Unity, and I think it's pretty legit. So anyways, I wish you the best of luck. Great stuff, good stuff, awesome stuff.